with you. Right now. And I'm just going to go into here. Just bear with me 1 minute. I'm just going to get rid of that view. Can everyone see? But just 1 second. Sorry about this. Okay, I just want to check. Chris, can you see that whole screen where it says Stratford Physical Education K-8?
Looks good.
Okay, good. So this is the first part of the session. I just wanted to talk a little bit about self-care, just to start us off, because we're in that profession. And it's important that when we're approaching the beginning of the school year and we're running our PE programs online, the first priority should be yourselves, especially during this time in regards to self-care. We all have to abide by social distancing rules, extra cleanliness, and also being sort of, not being able to do what we've been doing normally. So I just wanted to share a resource that I use a little bit. It's called Tiny Buddha. I'm not sure if any of you have heard about it, but within the Tiny Buddha resource, it just gives us some really good tips, and it makes us to rethink and reflect sometimes on what we can do to ensure that we're working at our best possible state, especially going into the school year where it is going to be, there are definitely challenges. And I'm going to talk about some of those challenges that the team have had in terms of approaching how we're going to deliver PE at Stratford over the next month, and then possibly also moving forward, because there's definitely moving targets. It's definitely going to be changing from month to month in terms of what's expected of us from the school, from head office, and also from the parents too. So if I just link that into there, Tiny Buddha is a really cool site. I just follow them on Twitter. If I go to here now, if anyone wants to take notes of this or just copy the Twitter feed, this is a really great article that I found the other day. I'm not going to go through it all now, but it's just a reference. At different times throughout today, I'll just give you some references to some resources that may be helpful in terms of your self-care and self-management, and also to be able to share with the students as we're starting to unravel the curriculum. So this is just something, 19 simple daily habits for a happier life. If you go through there, they just sort of list the different ones: energizing yourself in the morning, living in the present, listening attentively, making new friends. So I'm sure many of you have heard these before. I just think it's good at different times to sort of revisit these types of messages and these types of resources, just to ensure that we're doing everything we can to look after ourselves. So I implore you to do everything you can to continue to look after yourselves as we go into the new year. So, okay. Oops, another one. During the first PD when I came over in last February, which seems like much longer ago, I talked about the mental model and the construct of the basic needs in terms of, we behave at any single time to meet one or more of our 5 basic needs. And I introduced this. We did some different activities when we were sort of aligning ourselves into groups. And it's a really good construct to share with students, because it's all about motivation. We're motivated to behave to meet the needs of one of these 5 things. Many of us have a particular bias towards one or more of these basic needs. You may have more bias towards love and belonging, hanging out with people, friends and family. or some of us might have a bias towards experiencing those senses of freedom. What you do when you're without any restrictions. I just thought I'd bring this up because there has been a monumental shift in our ability to meet our basic needs during the COVID situation and the COVID environment. And what has happened is obviously we have a bigger focus now on our survival need, and we have a bigger focus on, and there has been definitely a shift in our freedom need, which means that a lot of our freedoms have been restricted. And so it's difficult for us to meet our freedom needs, which can have an impact on our general health and our well-being. We can't just hop in the car and drive down the beach and go swimming. We can't go off and just have dinners with friends anymore, and that does impact us, especially if you've got a strong freedom need. And obviously, we're doing everything we can to survive at the moment. There are many people out there struggling just to put food on their tables, holding onto our jobs. And things like that. So sometimes you can use this to talk to the students about general well-being, and you could integrate this into some of the lessons, although they won't be accessible lessons, but you can use it just as what I call a motivation, or get students to understand and learn a little bit about and explore a little bit more about behavior and what motivates us to behave and what is responsible and irresponsible behavior. Okay, so the first activity we're going to do today, we're tuning in. So we're going to go a little bit of old school here, and I ask you just to prepare yourselves with just a piece of paper and a pen, and I'm going to give us 1 minute. This is a psychological experiment or an intelligence test that presenters use quite a bit, and I'm just going to set my timer. And what it is, this is the challenge. I'm going to give you 1 minute. I'm going to put a clock on it shortly. I'm going to give you 1 minute. Get your pen and your paper, and I'm going to ask for you to write down within 60 seconds all the things, as many things that you cannot do with a paperclip. So if you can see the paperclip down here, I'm going to ask you to write down. So everyone just get a piece of paper and a pen. So I'll just give you 30 seconds to get that out so you can get prepared. Then I'm going to actually ask you to, okay, just going to give you a minute to get all that organized. Okay, so I'm going to put a timer on this. We're not going to today go into any breakout rooms. We're going to stay here together as a whole. So I'm going to give you 1 minute. I want you to write down. This is trying to just get us thinking and get our brains sort of tuned in a little bit. But it also is a bit of a brain hack, because it's going to actually ask you to do the opposite of what you normally would do. So I'm going to ask you to spend 1 minute writing down as many things that you cannot do with a paperclip, and afterwards I'm going to sort of call out to different people to share some of their responses, and I'll tell you how this relates and transfers into an intelligence test. So I'm going to give you a minute. Start, go. Write down as many things that you cannot do with a paperclip. Humor me. That you cannot do. Okay, 20 seconds left. Okay, 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so put your pens down. I'm going to firstly throw it over to, oh, there goes my alarm. I just woke my mother up. I'm just going to firstly throw it over to Chris. Chris, how many things did you come up with? And can you share 2 of them for me? How many on your list?
7.
7. Okay,
Yeah.
and how many? And can you just share 2 of them with me? Things that you can't do with a paperclip.
Uh, a paperclip. You can't eat a paperclip. Well, I guess you probably can. It just wouldn't be.
You can. You probably could eat one, but it just won't be good for you. Okay, so go down to Carla. Can you share how many things did you come up with, Carla, and how? Share a couple of them with me.
I have 6, and you can't poke people with it, and you can't plant it in a garden.
I suppose you can poke people with it. It's not probably a good thing to do it, though, is it? Ryan, how about you?
Say Ryan or Brian?
Go ahead, Ryan.
I think people want to hear from Brian.
You sure, Ryan?
I said you can't eat cereal with a paperclip, and you can't
Kyle,
put a paperclip in the microwave.
Yeah, that's true. Anyone else? Does anyone else want to share their thoughts about what you can't do with a paperclip?
Can't bake a cake with it.
Can't bake a cake.
Can't write with it.
Shoot a basketball.
Can't cook.
Can't cook it with a paperclip.
Can't hold something heavy with a paperclip.
I'm just interested. I went to a professional development workshop one day, and they had this sort of learning cognitive psychologists do this, and they said that they use this activity as an intelligence test. And in 1 minute, it's like how many ideas that one came up with is a reflection upon one's intelligence. And there was a number that they use. And no matter when they did this activity, no matter if they were completely ridiculous ideas of what you can and can't do, but the number was 30 within a minute. So I was coming up with 30 different things that you can't do within a paperclip. Puts you in a certain.
I just can't write that fast.
Yeah, a lot of people can't write that fast these days just because of the fact of we're using computers all the time. But listen, that was just a little activity just to try and get actively thinking before we move on to the real, to the nitty gritty. So, okay. Now, before the PD session, I sent an email out sort of with a few documents on it. One was an outline of the agenda and the learning outcomes and what we intend to achieve today. There were 2 other documents as well. One was the from Principles, the practice document from presented by the head office, and also a learning glossary. I just want to bring your attention to those 2 documents. We're not going to go in and dig into them, but I just want to bring your attention to the fact that they're 2 excellent documents that have been prepared by head office, and they capture really well what education is about these days. It captures really well the idea of standards-based education, conceptual learning, competency-based learning. And I've seen that this document evolve over the last 3 or 4 years from its initial inception. And there's been lots of educational thought leaders contribute to this document. So I do, ask you to place a value on the importance of those 2 documents, and in your own time, try and digest it and have a read over it and keep it in a place where you can access it, because it really does set up a good platform to understand the frameworks behind good pedagogy, good education, teaching and learning. And it really does relate to what we're aiming to achieve in the new curriculum that we're rolling out in terms of conceptual understanding. So I do draw your attention to those 2 documents. Have a read over it, especially if any of you are interested in following any leadership roles within Stratford or anywhere else. You need to know the concepts and the definitions and the content in that document. It would be really important, and we're going to be discussing it throughout the year and coming back to it at different times. So the next section I want to go into is to get some feedback over last year's distant learning and what we did in distant learning. Now, we had to pivot really quickly and the team did exceptionally well. I'd like to acknowledge Brian and Chris, Aileen and Nate, who came together really quickly to help lead the different team groups and team cohorts to come up with curriculum and learning activities which weren't planned. I got some really great feedback from parents and from head office in regards to how well organized the PE staff were in terms of the energy and the quality of the instruction over Zoom, over the distant learning. So congratulations on that. But I think I just want to take 5 or 10 minutes here just to reflect upon your thoughts on your experience of distant learning. So how this is going to work, I've just got 4 feedback models up on the screen. These are educational frameworks that are used by teachers, by presenters to capture feedback. PMI, CCC, the KWL, and the Y chart model. Now you can use this with the kids in classrooms as well to gather their feedback, and it's always nice to give them these frameworks or these models to work within, to provide a bit of some parameters for them to structure their thinking. So what we're going to, the first one I'm going to introduce is the plus, minus, and interesting. So they're fairly self-explanatory. So write down 1 or 2 things that were a plus around distant learning, 1 or 2 things that were a minus, that was challenge, that were a minus, and 1 or 2 things that were interesting as a part of the PMI. Then there's CCC, which was 1 or 2 things, which was a cheer. What do you want to challenge about the distant learning model and what we did last year? And what would you change from last year to this year? The KWL model is a know, what do you want to know and learn? What did you know? What do you know about distant learning now? What do you want to know more about? What did you learn from last year's experiences? And the Y chart is a simple think, feel, do. What do you think about distant learning? What do you feel about distant learning? What did you do specifically in distant learning that was effective? So how we're going to run this is, I'm going to give you 5 minutes just to have some thinking time. And if you were in Team Brian, if you were the staff member who worked with Brian throughout last year, you're going to do a PMI chart. Chris's team, you're going to do a CCC chart. Aileen's team, you're going to do a KWL chart. And Nate's team's going to do a Y chart. You're going to individually do this yourself. It's not a breakout group. You're just going to grab your piece of paper and your pen. If you're in Brian's group, you're just going to write PMI down the page. You're going to write 1 or 2 things that were a plus, 1 or 2 things that were a minus, 1 or 2 things that are interesting. Same with Team Chris's the members of Team Chris, Aileen and Nate. It's 350, when I say 350 now, I'd imagine that it is 10:50 there. We will come back in about 10 minutes. I'm not going to leave anywhere. I'm still going to be on the screen. Don't leave your screen. Keep your video up and so we can see everyone's still working. I don't want anyone to leave the room, but I'll come back together in 10 minutes. And then when we come back, Brian is going to take over and he's going to direct and ask some members of his team to share some of their feedback. Now, this will create some general discussion as well, and we're going to spend the next 20 minutes when we come back as a group to just discuss some of the feedback and the discussion points that come from it. Okay, so firstly, does anyone have any questions in regards to what's expected of you over the next 10 minutes? Okay, great. So grab some paper. If you're in one of those groups, do your chart, and then at around 11 o'clock, I'll get Brian to step back in and start taking over. Okay.
Hey guys, I think you guys can use the chat too, so you can privately chat your team members, just in case you wanted to talk to them before we jump in together.
That's great. Thanks, Brian, for that.
Yeah, George. You're in my group. Everyone that worked in middle school through summer. I mean, not summer, distance learning.
Yep. So this is a reflection upon their experiences over the last 3 or 4 months or so from your distant learning using that feedback model.
Nate, which model are we using then for middle school? The feedback model.
So I'll just share this again. So Nate's got the Y chart. Carla, you got the Y chart. So you just create a little Y chart with the concepts think, feel, do. What did you think about distant learning? What did you feel? What did you do specifically that was of quality? Or not even?
Okay, thank you.
There's a woofer. So if possible, it'd be great to see everybody's screen. So I can see some people have blocked out and stopped their video and I can't see. So it'd be great if I could just see everyone's face and make sure, there we go. So just a few more minutes. It only has to be one or two things on everything on each of the categories that you're working with, of the three things that you're working in. Just a chance just to click back upon last year, put yourself in last year's situation, and to capture some of the things that that we did. Okay, Brian, Brian, I'm going to pass it over to you now. Do you want to just direct the discussion and the conversation with some members of your group in regards to your feedback?
Yeah, so I believe there's only 3 people here from my group in today's meeting, Michael, Nori, and Bianca. I'll go first. So a plus, I enjoyed working from home. A minus, the lack of equipment to teach PE class. And what was interesting is just using technology to create a PE class, all the elements to make a class exciting for each grade level. All right, so I'll pass it on to Michael. Hey, Michael, you there? Oh, you know what? Michael's doing another training today too, so he might not be there. How about Nori? Nori, would you like to go? Oh, you're muted. There
Okay.
you go.
I was on maternity leave, so I haven't done this yet, so I don't know really what to expect.
Okay, gotcha.
So-
We'll skip you and we'll go to Bianca.
Okay.
I put for a plus, again, like just the safety measures that are being taken, but also I do enjoy working from home, and after doing it, I enjoyed it a lot. The minus is, I guess, making sure the kids stay engaged, and making sure that I stay really engaged and accountable, and being able to watch them do the movements. Because I know with a lot of kids, you have to kind of move pages. So I guess trying to keep on top of that while also working with them. And then I guess what's going to be interesting is kind of really working with Schoology a lot and kind of navigating through that, and kind of seeing how their curriculum is going to be this year.
Thanks for that.
I think that's it on my team. If I skipped you, my bad.
Brian, I think I was on your team.
Oh yeah, that's right, Rick. Oh my goodness, Rick, you're next.
So my plus was it was really easy to transition from one point to the next. It was just as simple as going to the next slide. My minus was so much of it was asynchronous. Like our lessons, they would do stuff with me when it's a live Zoom session, but then I wouldn't see them for a whole week. So it was really hard to, track their progress. And then interesting, like Brian said, was the integration of the technology. And I had students submitting videos and sharing those with the class. That was really interesting.
Okay, Chris, I'm going to pass it over to you, mate. Can you, do you want to direct the conversation through your group?
Yeah, definitely. So
Thanks,
my
Chris.
group, aka the PE squad, we're doing the 3 C's, which is cheer. What was the second one? Cheer.
Challenge and change.
That's right. Yeah, challenge and change. So I'm just gonna ask people if somebody from my group shares something that resonates with you, or you could feel it. You're just gonna do a little virtual fist bump, just like that. That just lets us know that, hey, you're feeling the same way. So my cheer was when we turned into this distance learning. I really had to just rely on like my back pocket activities, just things I know from the top of my head, and try to just go into that virtual live setting and hoping that it worked out well. Didn't have much time for like creativity and things like that. My challenge was figuring out how to get everybody engaged in the class. Right, that was a struggle to figure out ways to get everybody engaged and having fun in the virtual live setting. And then my change was just taking a step back, doing some planning, some research, and just figuring out ways to get our kids more involved. I'm gonna pass it over to my boy Brad.
Yep. So mine, the cheer, we got a lot of positive feedback from parents at my campus for the PE, which was awesome. I did a lot of recording, online Zoom recordings, exercises that I would actually share the screen with the kids, do the exercises with them, and that way I could sit in and watch them do the exercises as opposed to me doing it live and not being able to kind of manage the class. So that kind of worked out well. And the curriculum content too, the parents really like being able to go to all the curriculum, click on it and see, what they can have their kids do throughout the week. The challenge, the connection through the internet. A lot of kids had trouble connecting into Zoom, or it was really glitchy. So when you were like running a class, some of the kids either couldn't hear you or you couldn't hear them when they were trying to, clarify something. So that was kind of a struggle. The change, mainly, for all of us, we're all, we're all, people persons, like we like to be around people. So getting used to not being around the students and the faculty physically and connecting with them, like on that personal level, like face to face, in person, it was definitely a change that we had to get used to.
Nice. All right, I just found this invisible basketball right here, and I'm gonna pass it to Alyssa.
Okay, there we go.
You gotta
So-
catch. You gotta catch the
Oh,
ball.
got it.
Hey,
Got him.
I'm better with my feet, but I'm okay with basketball. Okay, so a cheer of mine was that I was able to create fun, engaging games like through PowerPoint that I wouldn't normally be able to do for my students. So doing like Would You Rather or like board game stuff that involved physical activities. Challenges were that my class was optional. So I struggled with a lot of them doing the distance learning plans and connecting with them week to week. A change would be just figuring out how to assess my students better online when there's going to be multiple classes together. So trying to figure out how to do that.
Nice. Thanks for sharing. I will tell you this. We'll talk about assessments later on. All right. Last person for the triple C's. We'll get one more in. I'm gonna pass this ball to Pam. Oh, nice catch.
All right, a cheer I had is that without distance learning, a student created her own YouTube videos and workout videos and put them up on YouTube. And she was in, I believe, 3rd grade. So that was awesome. And a challenge is, how to motivate my students better. And because some of them were just sitting there and not doing anything and just watching. So, and then a change is, it was optional for our kids to do the DLP. And sometimes kids would come to my class, they didn't do the DLP. They wouldn't even look at it. And so, and another thing I would change is how all Stratfords, I think all Stratfords should be able to be consistent on how they're delivering the lesson. Yeah, so.
Nice. Thank you for sharing. We're gonna pass it over to the next feedback model.
Oh, Ariel's waiting.
Oh, I thought we were just doing a
Come
couple.
here, Ariel.
I thought we were doing a couple from each group, but we can go down.
Told her to choose wisely.
I did both charts, so I chose both of you. I chose wisely. I did both. So for cheer, I said the excitement of the elementary students to come to distance learning class, like even though it was optional, I had most of every class come. So that was good. And then the challenge was kind of being able to monitor all of the middle school kids in those classes and how to kind of change their mindset of what PE is from like sports focused to something different. I think it was a little bit easier for elementary kids to just kind of be excited for whatever it was that we were doing. But middle school kids were a little bit more used to having that sports focused class. And then a change is that I would like to see like the sizes of the middle school classes go down just so we have the opportunity to virtually see all the students like with a reasonable amount of like swipes of the screen. That was all.
That's an interesting question, interesting point you raise. And I think as we talk about the model that we're going to be using when we go back at the beginning of the year, I think you'll find that class sizes are going to be significantly smaller just because people have, there's been the choice for parents and students to go into the online learning academy. So there's a good percentage of kids who are going to be doing online learning academy and then doing distant learning. So the class sizes hopefully will be reduced, hopefully, but each school will be different. So Chris, do you have any more in your group who want to share?
Yeah, we got 2 more people. We got some good stuff going here. Duncan, do we want to keep going or what?
Yeah, I think it's great for everyone to have the opportunity to share their thoughts.
All right, I'm passing this basketball to Kyle.
Did he drop it?
Oh, we can't hear you,
We
Kyle.
can't hear you, Kyle.
Unmute Kyle.
Or it might be the headphones.
Hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
All right,
good.
so mine was basically off the distance learning plan. I felt like the chair was basically the format that our group did in. I felt like everything we had were precise and accurate. One of the challenges were like how we worded to the kids, because I think ours were from second to third, if I remember correctly. Like, we don't want our format to be too wordy, where the students don't know what they're supposed to be doing, or too vague that they're not doing it properly. I think my challenge was like to find more interesting activity for the kids. So over the summer on my campus, we did a color run for summer school. We also did like a water balloon toss, and then we also talked about a virtual walkathon. So I thought that would be pretty neat to see if we can get that through PE department.
Nice. Those are great ideas.
Kyle, can you shoot me, do you want to just shoot me an email or put up here about those 3 ideas that you just had? Or they sound really interesting, things that you did during the summer.
Okay, I'll type it in the chat box.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So the color run. Second one was like one toss, and then a virtual
walkathon.
Virtual walkathon. Yeah.
I think there's some good ideas there, Kyle. We could pick up on that and sort of maybe sort of explore how we could do that across all the schools, maybe as a part of an initiative as we get into the year.
Yeah, I think it'd be pretty good to see how all the campuses, like how the kids, how many steps they take based on school or class size, and then the school class can all get a prize at the end. So like another way to have the kids go out, not just exercising inside the classroom or Zoom, go for a walk their dog, that counts. Any small steps matters.
Yeah, it's a great concept. I'll just sort of pause there. I've been working with a department here, Government Department of Education, and they're rolling out a thing called Race Around Australia. Similar concept, but they're rolling around to all the public schools, and it's got an app, but it's got digital presence on the net, and you create a group and you walk or run or move a certain distance, and you go back and track it on your app. And the aim is the first group to get around Australia. But at every sort of, there's milestones that you get to, and then there's interesting facts and sort of information that comes up, significant cultural events, significant historical events that come up when you get to certain geographical points around the country. So I think that sort of learning with phys ed is going to continue to be really popular, and how we get creative with getting kids to be engaged with the content. Chris.
No, that was really good, and I think we got a lot of distance between all the Stratford campuses. That'd be cool if the kids like did enough to get to every single campus and visit the campuses too. That'd be cool. I'm gonna pass it over to, last but not least, Sonja.
Got it. Okay. So for my cheer, can you guys hear me? Yeah. Okay. My cheer was, I really liked how available people were. So if I was feeling confused or stuck, I could text you, Chris, and you'd reply, and that was nice, knowing I had that safety net. And I liked how well we worked as a team. I think having those distance learning plans put in place, like for what it was, and as like traumatic of just like leaving school and just dropping everything, to have that like neatly packaged and to present to the kids, they loved it. And I had kids tell me, oh, Miss B, my cousin goes to this campus and we did it together, because they had the same thing to work from, and they'd pull it up, from their separate houses and do the same thing together, and they loved it. And I just felt like it was really nice being organized. So my cheer for that is, I thought our teamwork in the DLPs was great. The challenge for me was kids showing up. I had a lot of parents email me and they just say, Miss B, is it okay if Claudia doesn't come? She's got tennis. And we're trying to limit the screen time. So I understand the limiting of screen time. And then another challenge would be the devices. Sometimes the kids would be on an old iPhone that their parents had in a drawer. on Wi-Fi, and they were like, oh, I can't really see what the lesson plan says, and they had trouble seeing, or they'd be doing jumping jacks and the phone would fall over, so I couldn't see them. But and the thing I would like to change is honestly just the participation. I'd like to have the kids show up more, and to be a little bit more on the radar. And I think that maybe now that we're starting the school year this way, instead of leaving so abruptly, we can kind of set the standard of participation instead of being an option. So that's my hope.
For sure. Thanks for sharing. All right, just before I leave, quick shout out to the PE squad. Right on.
Over to you, Aileen. Thanks for that, Chris.
All right, hey guys, got the dream team about to present right now. We had the know, want to know, and learn. And just a question: is learnt a word, Duncan? I'm like looking at the chart, like learnt, or is it learned? Like I was like,
That's when you're hyped up about learning. You get learned. You got learned
we're
up.
gonna to learn today, guys.
Look, I always, whenever these questions come to me, Aileen, I always default to the way that's what we do it in Australia. That's how we do it in Australia.
Yeah, we're talking. Yeah, totally. That totally makes sense. All right.
I don't know if it's right or wrong, but that's
so
Australianism.
All right, so know, want to learn, and then learnt. Did know that it definitely tested our creativity because we wanted to keep the kids engaged and trying to make it easy for us as well. I'm going to piggyback off of Alyssa a little bit with the want to know whether or not it's going to be mandatory now for them to actually show up to PE. And not that I didn't know this already, but I learned it a lot more so that we got a new challenge that teachers, and then especially PE teachers, are resilient, creative, and really dedicated to their job to make sure that the kids wanted to come back every day and try to keep them engaged as much as possible. Hats off to you, especially like I saw a lot of problems with PE just in general, and PEs in a lot of schools wasn't even offered. So the mere fact that we continue to do it and do a really great job, just throwing it out there, guys, just great job with everything that we did this past couple months. I'm gonna go ahead, Amuda, go ahead.
Okay, for no, hi everybody. For no, I just had I just know that I need to be more prepared than I was in school. That's one thing I thought we had to know. Being prepared was very important, being online. And then the other thing on for no was no, I have to be upbeat mindset. I have to be in a very upbeat mindset because we are at home, and keeping them challenged needed us to be more upbeat. So that was one thing I thought I need to know. And then wanted to know was wanted to have more research online, and how do I get more, where do I find more things, and getting those details would help more to know about those. That's one thing. And then what I learned was I had to have more equipments. That's one thing I learned. Just being by myself wasn't enough. That even though it was at home, I need a little more. I need a few more equipments with me to keep them more captivated. And I also needed to. I think everybody had this. We need to have a better internet connection, or keeping the kids learn to have them all more captivated is more important. But having a better connection would help me. So, yep.
And Muda, everyone's on the internet at the same time right now, so believe me, it's not just you.
So that's what I thought. So that's very important because my classes were dropping, and getting them back by the time like 10 minutes was gone, getting them all back and then starting, and then all of a sudden I have a different host, me getting into it was a really learning experience, and I think it helped me prepare well over the summer. So to go back and think about all the things that went wrong and to prepare for that for the upcoming year, I think that's what the best part of it was. Having it during, earlier the DLP made me get all these and learn these better,
Lucky for you, we got it all done during the summer too, so you'll be seeing that all this week. Thanks, Amuda. Mark, do you want to share?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. The no for me, I just wrote down during distant learning, I knew that the kids would not do a complete exercise. You know, they would do it, but you know that it's not going to be all the way right. So that's what I wrote down for the no. Want to know, I wanted to know if it's going to be optional again. That's all I had for want to know. Because being optional, I think just, you know, kids knew right away, okay, I don't need to be there. But then the ones who are motivated, you know, they showed up consistently. So the no for me is if it's going to be optional again. And then learned, I just basically learned to keep it simple, keep everything simple. So yeah.
Awesome. I like how we mentioned that like it's not mandatory, because I got a lot of this in my classes where I have like a bunch of the kids and you know they're not exercising because they're trying to like watch their friends or something. So yeah. Thanks, Mark. Ryan, you want to go?
Yeah. So for no, I just put I know that it's difficult to engage with the kids, especially the way my classes were set up last year when I had the whole school in one Zoom class at the same time. Pretty much impossible to have any sort of personal engagement with them. And I know that I found like the circuit fitness model worked pretty well. Something you can kind of always go to get them moving. And then I want to know ways to effectively motivate them to come to class each day, kind of what a lot of people have been saying. I think we were really done a disservice last year when the kids were told that it was optional. Kind of hard to motivate kids that may not want to be there anyway, especially if they don't have to be there. Then that's difficult. I want to know, I'm sure I'll find out, what specific modifications are will be made for and I want to know if it'll be more uniform across the board among campuses, the way that we deliver, kind of what Pam was saying earlier. I know the ways that we delivered our lessons I taught the same all the kids every day, and so I think they just kind of got over it fast because they had it 5 days a week. And this year I'm scheduled as of now to teach each kid 4 days a week. So I'm a little worried about them kind of getting over it and running out of things.
That's crazy, man.
You know, to keep them engaged. Yeah. So
yeah, it should be two days a week, like at the most. They're putting you to work, man.
That's what I told my principal, and he said, "Well, you can." He's like, "I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not gonna change it." I was like, "Okay, for sure."
So at my school, we're just keeping it 2 days a week.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what Eileen said, that the curriculum was, based on a 2 day a week model, and he said, "Okay, well, you can do 2 days a week on the curriculum and then do your own thing for the other 2 days a week." For sure.
Ryan, I've reached out to head office and asked them to look into that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just yesterday, I talked to Jeremy. So let's put that one on hold because we're going to try and rectify that for you.
Okay, cool.
Thanks, Ryan. Sorry, go ahead.
No, my L's were my L was kind of included in my K and my W.
You didn't get alerts? You didn't alert anything?
It does that sometimes.
I learned that you need to be creative about that.
There you go.
About how you spell
Duncan
learn.
did say that it was mandatory. They have to attend, right? And Duncan just put it in the chat that it will be something that they have to attend. So thanks again.
Is that what compulsory means?
Yeah, what it means in Australia. Whatever, that's what I.
Compulsory, yeah. You have to do it. You
and
have to do it.
Yeah. I think Ted's the last, or Ted and Marvin. Yeah, if you guys want.
Hey everyone. For the no, what I know is the Schoology. Whoops, hold on. The Schoology is easy to navigate. You know, for the teachers and the students. Something's going on with my camera here. Okay, there we go.
You're good now.
The Schoology was easy for the students, for me to navigate and put on the lessons, for them to follow them, have the discussion board where they can share. And also, it's important to connect with each one of them individually if you have the time, because they're at home, they're stuck in a room. If you can connect, have personal conversation, remind, you know, stuff that you've talked about when you're on campus. I found that important. And also be consistent in the approach. You know, if you have your routine, they know what to expect. They come in ready to go, and being consistent really help. What I want to know is how we can hold, you know, the students more accountable for the work that they're doing, for the exercises. I think like to know better strategies, and then also just to inspire them and motivate them. You know, just getting different ideas from everybody. I'd like to learn or want to know. For learning, I learned that not everyone reacts the same to the DLP. You know, some of my best athletes, best students, you know, shut down or were not interested at all. And that was not in their typical behavior. So I definitely learned that. Some that were not as interested at school or not the most athletic, they seem to like it. So I'm gonna find a balance on how to work with those, motivate the ones that usually were motivated. So.
That's great, Ted. Really good.
It seems like the motivation is a big thing. So we'll be discussing that, right, Chris? Got that covered later. Yeah.
So I think moving forward, just being mindful of time, as Nate, as you're going through your group, if you're sharing, just if it's something new, share it. If it's already been said, probably bypass it, because I just want to ensure that we keep things moving. But the feedback's fantastic. It's really important. It's good that we're recording this too. So Nate, I might hand it over to you now.
All right. So before we get started, I want to go ahead and introduce a new member to the middle school team, and that's Abe. So Abraham, he will be teaching 5th and 6th grade. Now I'm going to go ahead and reach out to people who haven't spoken yet, and then keep it simple and fast. We are a little bit pinched for time, so let's go ahead and start off with Dave. With the wide chart on think, feel, do. What did you think about distance learning? How did you feel about it, and what did you do?
All right, so for think, initially I thought it would be a great opportunity to expand our cross-curricular learning. It's nice working from home, and having a mute button is the greatest thing in the world. Feel, I feel comfortable doing it. I feel like it's much lower stress, actually, for me personally, than my on-campus responsibilities. And I felt like I was in control of the synchronous learning, but not the asynchronous learning. Do. So I did HIIT, HIIT, high intensity interval training in the circuit format, the combination of strength training, cardio training, also yoga mixed in there. And then for my cross-curricular stuff, we would take a break in the middle of every workout, right in the middle of the lesson, and I would teach them a lot of biology. I focused on things like heart rate, lung function, immune system, also health and nutrition. So those are the things that I took away from it, and I'm excited to be back in distance learning again.
Great, thank you. Next, I would like to reach out to Carla. Thank you for sharing, Dave. Carla, what did you think, feel, and do?
All right. Well, I thought I didn't get that memo on PE being optional. So I had a lot of my kids show up all the time. Like they were there all the time. I'd probably have like one or two kids missing once in a while, but I think that I had a great experience. It was a learning process for myself as well. I had to do some research, and I think we're going to get into how I came up with my curriculum later. But I felt like my 8 a.m. morning class was a struggle. That one was probably the hardest class to do, but I found out that music helps and it brings a lot of energy and it gets them up and motivated. And for the do, I do need to have a better understanding of Schoolology and kind of using that a little bit more as a resource and posting things on there, because to be honest, I'm still a little lost with that. So that's all.
All right, thank you for sharing. If I could go ahead and have Josh speak. Josh, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
How do you, or what do you think and feel and do for distance learning?
So I definitely think that the DL was a challenge. Not having the kids be there, just thinking it's optional. The motivation wasn't there as much. I felt that we had a lack of resources. Some students were telling me that they can't even go outside. They were confined to their room because their parents had the living room, their brother had their another place, so lack of space for them to even do a workout. And the lack of connection. You couldn't really help them out and correct them when they wanted help. To do this year, I mean, what I want to do is kind of make it a little more fun. I did do Team Jeopardy. That the kids love that. Student-led workouts, kids love that too. So stuff like that, and yeah.
Great. Thanks, Josh. Now moving on, last but not least, we'll go with George.
Big George.
Hey, what's going on, guys? You guys can hear me? I'm good. All right. So I think that we this is my opinion now. I think that we met the new challenge headstrong. I think that every single person here did an amazing job. I mean, we had to, everybody knows that we had to go from, just like in person every day to, man, we can't even see the kids now. They're in a black screen. And so it's like, I felt that we all did a great job of coming together. I mean, dude, Chris, you come up with amazing ideas, dude. And I really piggyback off of a lot of the things that you guys said. And so I think that I wouldn't have been able to do this without everybody here's support. So I think we did a great job. I think that also the parents really appreciated us because, I mean, we had the only physical activity during quarantine, honestly. I mean, they were shut down, right? No one was allowed to go outside. I mean, we had parents on our side that, were so scared to let their kids even go outside, see daylight, and so they really depended on us. We did a great job there. I feel the same way you guys feel. There was a large disconnect in the lack of supply, lack of things that we could do. So we really had to get creative. That was pretty tough. Comparing to in person, we just throw out some balls. Hey, bro, let's go hit each other with some dodgeball, stuff like that. You can't really do that. So, I think that honestly, we as a staff, we did it. You know what I mean? We did it. We made it happen. We had a glass half full outlook. We hit it headstrong. We just went with it. We acclimated extremely well. What I did personally, this was really fun. I made the kids all build a fort one day, and that was really cool. But I had 8th graders building forts. They hadn't done that since 3rd grade. So, but we also did a good job of, I think, that making a move in the minimal amount of space, like Josh said. Because sometimes they would literally be in a corner because some of the kids live in an apartment. You know what I mean? Everybody has space that they have designated for themselves. So it was pretty tough, but I think, all I got to do is, or all I got to say is you guys, we all did it together. I think we did a great job.
Okay, listen, thanks everybody. We're going to move forward. Thanks everybody for your feedback and for the fantastic efforts and what you did last year. It was amazing. It's interesting, isn't it, how there's more of a focus now going towards health and well-being as opposed to the sport-based sort of approach to education. And I think something coming out of the discussions is we've got to continue to be really creative and to adapt in this environment. We will go back to the traditional model and the hybrid model at some stage, but in the next month, I can tell you for certain that it will be distant learning. It'll be via Zoom. And we've got planning and we've got a lot of great resources to do that. So what I'm going to do now is going to give you 5 minutes just to stand up, go stretch your legs, go grab a drink, bathroom break if you need, and we'll come back at about 11:40 for the next 50 minutes. We've got a fair bit to get through. It'll be a little bit more me talking. So do come back, but there's some important stuff that we need to sort of go through over the next 40 minutes. So take a bit of time, take 7-8 minutes, and we'll come back at 11:40. Stretch your legs, do some jumping jacks, burpees. Hey, Chris, all good?
Yeah, a lot of good responses, man. This is good stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was important to go with the flow there and just to give people the platform to be able to share their experiences from us. I think they're 4 nice little models to use to get people to reflect and think.
Yeah, and I feel good that a lot of the stuff that was brought up we're pretty much covering later, right? So that's very comforting to know.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Do you guys know how Schoology is going to look for PE by any chance?
Yeah, we're going to...
expectations are? Because we're going to talk about that, right?
Yeah, definitely. We're going to do a lot of work on Schoology. So from now, I'm going to be presenting from the Schoology site and from the PE Schoology course. And that in itself will help you sort of show how you can navigate in and out of Schoology and how to use it a little bit. And then...
Okay.
Then you'll go off afterwards and start making your own courses for your classes and creating courses for your class like I've done for our PE group. And it'll take a little while for everyone to get their head around how to use Schoology and how to maximize it, but I've used it before and it becomes a really valuable tool. In the sense that everything's centralized, everything's at one spot, and you can't contaminate files and you can't lose files, and it's a nice way to manage all your folders and files, and it's really good for creating threads and discussion and connecting with the kids as well. And then you'll end up doing assessments on it, using it as an assessment tool. So it's like a holding platform, but it's also an interactive tool at the same time.
Cool.
One thing that you continue to learn more and more about Schoology. Like there's always stuff to know about. I'm still learning about aspects of it, and even though I've been using it for a while now. But you can get the Schoology on your phone, like the app on your phone, and you can log into your phone, and then on the Schoology website itself, there's a lot of tutorials on the app. And I just put my headphones in, and when I'm driving or when I'm cooking dinner or doing whatever, I just listen back to it every now and then, and listen to the modules. And it's just an informal, sort of non-threatening way just to sort of gradually get a better understanding of it.
Cool.
Maybe not the most exciting thing
Yeah,
to listen to while you're driving.
Yeah. Now, during our Schoology training yesterday, I had some questions about how what PE was going to look like, what our expectations are. The people that were running it didn't really know what
they straight up
the
said,
expectations
"I don't know what
were
to do with PE," right?
Exactly. Yeah. They were like, yeah, I don't know, and doing like the Zoom meetings. I just had a meeting this morning with all the principals at our school because they said, use the same Zoom link for your meetings for every single class, because I'm teaching 3 first grade classes all in one class at a time, because I have 6 first grade classes. So they're like combining every single class. So that was the thing that Ariel was talking about when she was saying, oh, you know, having smaller classes. I was like, that would be awesome, because you really need to connect with the kids on that emotional level and check in with them to see how they're doing with all this distance learning and them being stuck at home. And I feel like with my doing 3 classes at a time, you know, with 60 kids in a class, basically. So, I mean, 3 classes, so 20 in the class, I'm going to have 60 kids at a time. It's really hard to connect with them on that level when the classes are so big and you only have, you know, 30 minutes to do it. So
are the classes 28, or
so we'll see.
Are some of those kids choosing and opting to go into the online learning academy?
So I know that there's some that are doing online, the OA online academy, but I know that my classes that I have, I'm going to have all those kids in the class. So there's going to be about 20 per class. So if I'm doing 3 at a time, I'm going to have, you know, upwards to 50 to 60 in my class at a time.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say I saw mine too, and it's pretty much any of the 3rd graders that are home on that day I have. So it'll be like 3 classes, and then the next like Monday or whatever, not Monday, but Wednesday on the alternating days, it's whatever kids are home that day. And then I know with DLP, then they had to change things. So now all my middle school, like all 6th graders are together, all 7th, all 8th. So it's like whoever's home on whatever day it's multiple classes mixed together, whether they're online academy or they chose hybrid.
Yeah, I have kids that are going to be the teacher's going to post me up on the projector, and I'll be doing the class there, teaching that class. On top of that, I'll have kids at home in the same meeting at home on their computers doing the same thing. So,
but that's when they go to the hybrid model, though, isn't it? Because it's all distant learning going back at the beginning of the school year. Yeah. So this drawing upon that, there's going to be a lot of logistics that every individual school needs to work out with their principals in terms of class structures and delivery. And we'll have a session on Friday, which is a bit of an open forum, just to talk about those things and those challenges. But it's going to differ. Going back at the beginning of the year, it's going to be distant learning, so everyone's at home. And then what we'll be doing is throughout the month, we'll be preparing for the hybrid instruction as well when we go back, which is alternate classes. So you've got 3 different models. You've got distant learning, you've got the hybrid model, and then you've got the hybrid model with the online learning academy students as well. And we're trying to deliver the curriculum to you so there's flexibility, and the time is you don't have to spend a lot of time preparing and planning. That there's a core structure of curriculum there for you to nuance to your own likes, and then deliver it. So welcome back. I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay.
Real quick, Duncan, even when it goes hybrid, aren't we still going to be teaching online?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there'll be definitely parts of it, yeah. Oops. Just 1 second. Stop sharing that. Okay, Chris, can you see my screen? Just a quick check.
Yeah.
Okay, so welcome back, everyone. What I'd like to do now is to go over the Schoology site that we've set up, and then also to sort of run you through a bit of the story and the journey that we've gone through to get to here now. So what you're seeing now is the landing site. This is going to be the one-stop stop for everyone and for all PE teachers to go to. This is where all your resources and all the information you're ever going to need for PE at Stratford is going to sit in this Schoology course. This is a Schoology course that I've set up for the teachers. It's not for anyone else. It's not for parents. It's not for kids. It's for teachers. This is where we will be able to interact with each other, where if you want to add resources to it, you can send it through to me and I can put it on at this stage just to control the document flow. But you can see the different headings here. There's certain files and certain resources that have been put in here. There are some which are not yet as well. I'll continue to add to it. So what I'm going to draw your attention to first is this professional development folder. You can see there's 3 folders in there. In the February and the May folder, there is all of the PowerPoints and resources that we have done up to now. So if you want to go back and have a look at some of the work that we've done as a group in terms of professional development throughout since February onwards, you can find it there. August, this is today's or today and Friday sessions and the resources and the sort of information we're going to be working through. So this is the thing that I'm going to draw your attention to, and we're going to work on over the next 50 minutes. And it's the new physical education handbook. So this is our roadmap. This is our go-to when we looking at the new curriculum and the rollout of the new curriculum. In this document, it's like a story. Think about it as a book, as a paperback, and every chapter has got a different a different topic. So the vision statement there, if you go into Schoology and you can open this up, if you click on this, has all got links in it. So there's our vision statement. The vision statement was the vision statement that we came up with together as a group in February about what defines a physically literate student. Then we talked about our belief statements and our value statements. Okay, now I've captured them and put them into the first part of our handbook. This is the curriculum, and this is how we've built out the curriculum, rolling it out. So I just want to explain how we got to this point. So throughout the year, we went through the process of choosing and selecting a set of standards. Now that set of standards, and call it nepotism, but it ended up coming from an Australian curriculum or the national curriculum. But we did review standards based from New York, from California, from Canada as well. But there was a really good, there was a reason why we chose the Australian standards, is because they had some really good supportive teaching resources to go with it, which are readily accessible. Now, once we selected the set of standards, we then had to align those standards with the units of work that we were going to choose to do going into the new school year. And then we had to look at assessment and how we're tracking assessment and the development of indicators and that go with that. So I'm not going to spend too much time going through everything in detail in this document. I do ask you to go through and spend time reading this document and having a look at the different components of it. You know, from the rationale of the program to the aims of the program to our propositions. Between now and Friday, I really do implore you to go through and have a look at this document. Now, because this makes up the new curriculum, we're looking at the strand. The strand that we're dealing with is movement and physical activity. We're not covering any health at the moment. This is really important here, this strand, movement and physical activity. Then we go into sub-strands of moving our body, understanding movement and learning through movement. Once again, you have to bear with me for a minute, because this will all start making sense as it comes together in our scope and sequence. So we have sets of standards that sit beneath these sub-strands, and I'll talk about that in a moment. There's focus areas, fundamental movement skills. There's some definitions in here and some explanations as well around the different components of the curriculum. This is really important, the concept of fundamental movement skills here. This is another concept that we're going to be talking a lot to, is models-based practice and physical education. Models-based practice, which talks about cooperative play, challenge adventure games. Then we move into games and sports, modified games and sports, invasion games, net and court games, striking and field games, target games. Okay. Creative movement, track and field, cross-curricular links, which is really important. Once again, I ask you to have a read through this on a piece of pad, jot down any questions you've got that we'll look at on Friday. Same-sex attracted and gender diverse students, that's an important aspect these days, to be able to plan our lessons to be inclusive of all. And we'll talk about that in a little bit detail later on, but that's about acknowledging that every case is very different in terms of how we cater for the needs of all students, going from procedures to change rooms, transitioning to lessons, and also supporting social and emotionally as well. All right, here's the nitty and gritty. This is where we get into it. So Chris, Nate, and Brian and Aileen are going to be running a session individually with you this afternoon that's going to reinforce these concepts within a more practical sense of showing you the unit plans that have been developed for this year. So I'm just going to go through this document and I'm going to highlight some of the terminology and the concepts that we're going to be talking about and using as a group throughout the year and from now on. Okay, it's very important to get this vernacular correct. So the strands are movement and physical activity. We broke it up into clusters. Okay, so TK's foundation, years 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8. Moving our body is a substrand. These here are threads or content threads. These are standards. In this box here, you'll see here, ACPM, don't worry too much about the acronym, but that is a standard, okay? This is a standard. This is a standard. And as you can see, this refining movement skills, it goes up in complexity as we go through up to grade 7 and 8, okay? And the standards are then attached to a content thread. A content thread lies here, developing movement concepts and strategies, fitness and physical activity, okay? And then we go into learning through movement, teamwork, critical and creative thinking, ethical and behavior. Okay, this is a document that we are going to start sort of dissecting and analyzing and using a lot more over moving forward. Okay, so a standard is backwards by design. In terms of standards-based education, is you start with the standard and then you attach your standard to a unit of work, and then the standard becomes the driver for how you assess and what you're assessing throughout that unit of work. So what I did is, okay, for physical education for years 1 and 2, if we look at, oops, sorry, just trying to make it a bit.
So is TK, is that going to be transitional kindergarten and kindergarten? And then years 1 and 2 would be first and second grade?
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a sequence of content. So think about this document as the sequence of content. This is the roadmap. This is the gel of the binder. This directs everything. We always come back to this document as our source, okay, as our glue to the book. Because we talk to these indicators, we talk to these standards all the time. We will be. Now, what happens is when what I did then with the group is I did some scoping. So I looked at the units of work that you were doing in the Spark curriculum. I then looked at the models-based education units of work of where we could put them in terms of our weeks. And then I came up with this scope and sequence. Now, scope and sequence is simply a graphical representation of naming the units that you are going to be teaching, throughout the different weeks and the different semesters. Okay. So for example, TKN1, so this is for years 1 and 2, this scope and sequence. We're using cooperative play for kindergarten. Let's just use kindergarten within this curriculum at the moment as well. So the unit title for the first 12 lessons, and please consider think about this is what we did when we were looking at designing the curriculum for a traditional delivery model of there's no COVID, this is going to be at school, and at the beginning of this year, TKN1, the first 12 lessons, the first weeks 1 to 6 are going to be looking on cooperative play. That's your unit of work, cooperative play. That's what it's called. And then the second part of the semester, you're going to be doing a unit of work called movement exploration. Now, your unit of work is represented in what's called a unit plan. And this is what Chris and Brian and Nate are going to be going off in your groups this afternoon and dissecting the unit plan that has been built for the upcoming beginning of the school year. So we've nuanced it. We couldn't do cooperative play going into this year, obviously, because we're going into a distant learning situation and environment, and that even if we were at school, there were going to be restrictions upon social distancing and appropriate use of equipment and sharing of equipment and sanitization of equipment. So we had to, once again, I use that word pivot. So come a month out from today, a month ago, we were planning to deliver this professional development and to expose you to the new unit of work for TK years 1 and 2 on cooperative play. But all of a sudden we had to change. We had to pivot and we had to write, okay, I've got to write new units of work. So for the last 3 months, I've been writing all your new units of work. So for cooperative play, it was for years 1 and 2, years 3 to 5, it was on invasion games, and years 6 to 8, it was invasion games with more of a focus on soccer and flag football. Now, I had prepared and written all those units of work. I've parked them. They're sitting in a document somewhere else because we're not using those units of work for the beginning of this school year, because we've had to once again pivot and reconstruct and redesign units of work which are focused on distant learning delivery and using more of a health and well-being circuit jump rope type focus. And that's where the team has worked extremely hard over the last month to prepare this unit of work for you to start and this curriculum to roll out at the beginning of this year. So once again, given time in your, between now and Friday, have a look through this document. Have a look at this. This is the sequence of content. Read through for your year groups. You probably teach most of the year groups, but just have a read through how this sequence of content is structured and how the standards are written, okay? And then this is year 3 to 5, and you'll be able to see this document that, let's just go here to years 3 and 5. The ones in red were what were going to be brand new units of work for this year. Because remember, the rollout of the new curriculum is over a 2-year period, where at the beginning of this year, we're going to roll out a new unit of work. Let's just say we're in the years 3 to 5. We're going to do a new unit of work for invasion games. We're going to expose you to and share with you a new format for writing a unit plan up. How that unit plan works in regards to standards, assessment, reporting to parents, and resource allocation and design. And we've had to change that now, okay? Going into week 2, into semester 2, we were going to be doing a brand new unit of work on striking and fielding. You were going to not do your normal basketball unit for the first half of that term, and then going into the second half of that term or the second stage, you're going to do a brand new unit of work. This is for semester 2, and then you're going to jump into jump rope and circuits as per normal. In grade 6, once again, 6 to 8, this was going to be a brand new unit of work. Then we go into the second part of the semester. Your volleyball unit was going to be as normal. And then going into semester 3, this is what it looks like. The red is what was going to be new units of work. And then the following year, we're going to roll out the rest of the new units of work. Okay. Assessment and reporting principles. You would have talked a little bit about this in your previous professional development sessions. I don't want to spend too much time dissecting this document on assessment, because you need to really sort of get your head around the terminology and read it a few times for us to then start having further discussions around it. But assessment sort of is thought about now in 3 different ways: assessment for learning, assessment as learning, and assessment of learning. We really are focusing and trying to emphasize more assessment for learning and as learning, as opposed to assessment of learning. Assessment of learning essentially is an old model where you teach a unit of work. At the end of the unit of work, you assess what the students can do. We need to inbuild assessment and build assessment within our teaching and learning practices and our daily and weekly activities and our teaching and learning activities. Here are some more specific methodologies for recording assessment in phys ed. Using evidence, recording evidence. Once again, this document is a handbook which creates support material. What it does is it creates resources and support material for our curriculum rollout. Okay, so that's a whole section there. That this work here in roles and responsibilities, ensuring health and safety and securing the environment, agreement of understanding. Many of you would have seen this information in your previous handbook. So I've taken parts out of the previous handbook that are still relevant. Once again, here's some resources for you. As a PE teacher at Stratford, here are some resources to help how to create positive learning environments. There's some information there on and resources on behavioral management, student management, challenging best practice for challenging behaviors in your group. So it's a supportive resource as well. So think about it in that sense. Okay. So once again, this document is your new PE teacher's handbook. It's your go-to. We will spend more time on different sections of this document as the year progresses in different professional development. So for the next professional development, we will focus more on assessment strategies and dig deeper into what assessment and good assessment and quality assessment looks like in PE. So today, the purpose of today is to expose you to the general sort of framework of this document. And we're going to be identifying some specific parts of this today and for Friday to focus on a little bit further. I do want to just bring that down. Okay. I'm just going to stop sharing just for 1 second. I'm going to come back to the group and I just want to see, I know it's a little bit lecture-like here. And I apologize for that because I don't really like sort of this type of delivery, but it's important just for this at the beginning is just to share this document with you so you understand how it looks and the different components of it. Going back to it. So you'll find that document here, which is a Word document. Now you can download that at any time, but you'll always find it here. You'll always know where to access it, okay? We are in the process of building a handbook for students and for parents. We just put a little hold on developing that handbook because of the sort of different type of delivery model that we're going to be doing at the beginning of this year. So we'll come back to that later on. This is really interesting, and this has made up a big part of the scope of work that I've been focusing on over the last 2 months, and it's called assessment tracking. So I'm going to just choose randomly a grade 4 assessment tracking document. Now I've done this for every single year group, okay? I'm just going to expand this out. And this is what it looks like. So for example, in grade 4, with that, sequence of content, that document that I used before, we've broken down into unit titles. So for semester 1, first unit is invasion games. Now this talks to more specifically assessment. And I think that's one of the biggest shifts in the rolling out of this new curriculum, is the focus and the attention that we're going to be giving to quality assessment of PE. Now, this came up in the discussions before in terms of how do we actually assess the kids and what they're doing, how do we then report it to parents. So this is a roadmap. Now, as I said, there's a roadmap for every single year group that has been tracked out based on the units of work in a traditional model. So if we look at the invasion games unit of work, this up here is the standard 43, practice and refine fundamental movement skills in a variety of movement sequences and situations. We need to start unpacking these standards and understanding what they're actually saying, okay? They can be a little wordy, but at the end of the unit of work, we will be able to report on, and we have evaluated a student's ability to be able to practice and refine their FM skills in a variety of contexts. That's our focus for this unit of work. It does not mean that we're not teaching other things in the unit and other aspects of physical education in this unit. What it means is our assessment focus is on 43. And while we're teaching and throughout the unit of work, our focus on assessment is on 43. Now, across here on the left-hand side, we have indicators. Think about this as the final goal that we're assessing on, but it's fairly broad. Okay, so you got to ask yourself at the end of the unit of work, how am I going to assess my students if they can or cannot, or they've achieved or haven't achieved, or they're working towards meeting this outcome? How can I actually say that they are able to practice and refine their fundamental movement skills while they're doing a cooperative play unit or while they're doing an invasion games unit? That's the challenge. That's where we need to start doing the work. So what we do and what I've created are indicators. Now, these indicators come from 2 documents. They come from the actual curriculum document that they were extracted from, and they also come from the physical literacy continuum that we sort of dug into in the February PD. So these indicators down here on the left-hand side help us focus our assessment to be able to get us to what's called an educationally best fit placement of saying a student has been able to do this. Locomotor skills, okay? So in this invasion games unit, we're focusing on 2 standards, 43 and 45. Practice and refine fundamental movement skills, and practice and apply movement concepts and strategies with and without equipment, okay? So our challenge as practitioners, you don't have to write the units of work. You've written we're providing you with the units of work, with the activities, with the resources. So what you then do is in your preparation, you work with that document to get yourself organized to teach that lessons. You, and not just you, we're not going to let you have to make you do it on your own, but as a group, we're starting to develop set tools to be able to assess these indicators, to then be able to, at the end of the unit of work, say that if a student's been able to meet this standard or not. Because as we evolve with our quality and level of reporting, these will end up being on your reports later. This is probably a year or 2 down the track, but that will be okay. In semester 1, we focused on practice and refining fundamental movement skills, such and such was able to meet this standard. How can you actually prove and provide evidence that such and such was able to, you'll be able to put that person to say they were able to do that? Well, you will have evidence through assessment tools that you've created and assessment tools that you use to be able to use these indicators to help you get there. Can they manipulate the direction and speed of an object? Can they perform locomotor skills in a range of movements and contexts? Can they change body positions to improve their propulsion and movement forward? This one's more about thinking and action, okay? Implements a tactic based on individual strengths. So we have to use these standards. This is the standard. These are the indicators. The indicators help us and guide us to get us to a point that we can confidently, comfortably say that a student has been able to meet this standard. Now, what I've done is I've gone through every unit of work, so creative movement, and we've attached a standard to this unit of work. We've identified the indicators that help us get to this standard, and now we've got to build the assessment tools. And if you look at that original document in the handbook, you look at the assessment tools, there's a range of assessment tools and assessment strategies that we can use to be able to accurately and comprehensively measure the indicators. So in the creative movement lesson, we're going to be focusing on 3 different standards throughout those lessons and focusing and assessing on 43, 47, and 108. And then when we look at semester 2, when we go into the net and wall unit for 10 lessons, this is our assessment focus. This is our standard. These are our indicators. This is our standard, and these are our indicators. As we go then to the striking and fielding lesson, once again, that's our focus for assessment, and there are our indicators there. Now, this has been done for the whole of the year, for every unit of work, for every grade from K through to 8 in terms of assessment tracking. So I'm going to pause there for a second, and I'm going to open it up just for a bit of brief discussion. If you have any questions at the moment, I know there's a lot of information that I've just dumped on you. The assessment tracking document is going to be rolled out. The assessment tracking document is for our purposes only. Okay, we use that as a guideline to help with our planning and help with our unit design and designing our units of work. It is the roadmap. I always go back to that assessment tracking document to get our starting point. Once we have our starting point, we then build the unit of work around that. And a lot of the work this afternoon is going to be on building units of work or dissecting a unit of work which has been built for our distant learning delivery coming into this fall. So I'm just going to pause there. Does anyone have any observations, any questions around 1, the handbook, and 2, around the assessment tracking document?
Hey, Duncan, maybe we can give everyone some time to think about it over lunch, and then we can, so everyone's recharged.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's the purpose of this session now is just to share it with you and to try and provide a bit of a context around what the document's purpose is and what are some of the different sections and components of that document and how that document is going to help us moving forward with our curriculum rollout, with our assessment, and how we create sort of our PE lessons. What I can tell you, what I did is, it worked really well, is when we had to pivot, when we had to go back and we had to go, oh, hang on, the standards that we have chosen for cooperative play or for invasion games aren't going to match it for the beginning of this school year. So with the team throughout the summer, we looked at, okay, which standards will match with a fitness circuit movement jump rope type unit of work. And what we did is we attached that standard to the top, and then we built the unit of work with those standards being at the forefront. Then we looked at the activities, then we looked at the resources, then we look at all the different types of components on that. And I'm just going to share this again with you. because we go from that assessment tracking document there to our units of work. And these are the units of work that your team members are going to work with you more specifically in your breakout groups after we stop for lunch. And I was going to share the TK to 1 with you. So we go from selecting the standards, identifying which standards we're going to focus on as we move into the unit of work. And then this is what the unit plan looks like. This is specifically for going into our hybrid instruction or online learning, digital learning unit of work. You'll see that there's a unit overview, there's the standards that we've selected here, there's essential questions. We go through the description of tasks. And then you'll see that here's suggested lesson sequencing. Okay, these are the lessons that have been developed to begin the beginning of the year. And I'm not going to talk too much about it because Chris, Nate, Brian, and Aileen have put a tremendous amount of work in building these units of work over the last month. They know these units back to front because they've built them. They've provided extended resources to support the lesson content. Once again, this is terminology that we're going to be using consistently as a group moving forward. Lesson content, assessment focus, instructional focus, registration, okay? And the team will talk to you about them this afternoon. So that's what a unit plan is going to look like for each unit that we do. And Chris and Aileen in the group will talk about the expectations of what you do with that unit plan, how you use that unit plan as an actual working document, as a document that is a real document. One thing that I'm really have learned over the years in leading teams and leading phys ed teams is you can have the fanciest documentation and it can look really beautiful and it's got all the right wording in it, and you can hand that in at the end of the unit of work to your leader or to your curriculum coordinator or whomever. But it means nothing if it hasn't helped guide your teaching and learning. It means nothing if you haven't used it as a tool to help you reflect on how you're going in delivering your PE lessons. So that document will be something that you're going to write all over. You're going to document, and remember that this is a pilot. So we're in this incredible learning curve at the moment, this incredible learning situation, which is, you know, I'll use this word again. I said to myself, I've got to be mindful of how many times I use the word pivot and unprecedented, because you're hearing it all the time. But it is unprecedented because we are, and this is where we are a little bit different to some of the other subject areas at the moment and some of the other faculty groups. Science is in a similar situation to us because science and PE were charged with the task of developing a new curriculum, a school-wide new curriculum for Stratford. So we've been in the process of designing and developing this curriculum. And then we're hit with COVID. So then we have to pivot and we have to change and say, okay, I'm continuing to build this curriculum on the side over here, but over here we need to start preparing for online learning at the same time. And this is where we shifted our focus last year, is we've got to go straight to online learning. And it actually helped us because we started working together as a team really cohesively and started using the concept of curriculum and, you know, and units of work, and we started discussing assessment. So it is actually a nice segue into what we're doing now, is formalizing things a little bit more and trying to create structures and support for you. And within that, there's also the flexibility and the opportunity for you to be creative and to put your own flair onto it. We don't want it to make it it's so authoritative and it's so prescriptive, but it is set up in a way where it's important that we can register and be accountable for our work. essentially we need to be accountable for the quality and the delivery of our PE to our students. So we then had to we then had to pivot, and we had to design units of work which have distant learning model in the back of our minds, and how can we actually roll that out in a meaningful way. A lot of the work now, from now to Friday, is hopefully going to be a lot of practical ideas and the sharing of ideas around how we can continue to deliver online learning, and give you some good ideas of how to do it, and with the framework that we're providing for you with this new curriculum. Okay. So and then on Friday we'll be going over more around Schoology and how we're using Schoology, how you will then break off and create your own courses for Schoology, for your own classes, how you will present this content on Schoology for it to be accessible for your students. I do know that you will be doing hopefully at a maximum, Ryan, 2 virtual PE sessions a week for each grade or class. So straight away, and it's going to be compulsory, so straight away you're doubling the amount of face-to-face time that most of you had with your classes last year in the COVID model, because I understand you had 1 30-minute not compulsory sort of opportunity last year. So we'll talk about the asynchronous work later, and yes, we will definitely put up, and you'll have the opportunity and you'll be encouraged to put up activities and things that they can do asynchronously, and also health-wise in terms of, you know, self-care and self-management and well-being and nutrition. And we can put resources asynchronously on the Schoology for the students to do. But our focus and our commitment of what we're assessing and reporting on will be what is specifically laid out in the unit plan. And that unit plan will be very prescriptive, and it'll be very clear what we're focusing on and what we're looking at assessing during the first unit of work as we roll it out in terms of the circuit work and the jump rope. Chris, Aileen, Nate, and Brian, I was going to pause there. Do you want to contribute and just sort of add anything at this spot in terms of what we've covered and where we're heading?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say this in my group, but I'll say it to everybody. And this is a lot of, it seems like it's a lot of content, but the good thing is that most of the work is done already. It's us, we're going to go into our breakout sessions later, but it's pretty much just diving into just familiarizing ourselves with the verbiage, the indicators, the assessments. And then we're also going to take you through an opportunity where you're going to see us put a little creativity into the lesson plan as well. So I just want to let everybody know, like, all this stuff you're doing already. This is just another way of highlighting things, and also documentation to turn into our head of schools, so that part gets taken care of. So this is good stuff.
Another thing I would like to add is the assessment aspect may seem daunting, but it actually is meant to be during your actual lesson, so it takes away less like designated time for it, so everything is intertwined. So don't have it intimidate you, like what Chris said. We'll go ahead and make every sense of everything as we go on.
Hey guys, do you guys have access to the Schoology page before we go back and meet later today? Everyone good? All right.
No, I don't.
Duncan just sent the email beforehand, so the access code is on there. You want to?
I was just going to ask, was it the access code?
Yeah, we'll put it in the go ahead, can you pull it up? We'll put it up in the chat right now so that you can do that, because when we get back from lunch, we're going to be in our individual breakout rooms.
Also, make sure you have a small safe space to move around a little bit too. We're going to be moving a little bit this afternoon, so just a heads up.
Yeah, just before we break for lunch, something which came across really clearly when I was over there in February when I ran the PD was your desire for PE to be taken more seriously from and place the more important value from your heads of school and from other staff members, and you're not, and PE is not just seen as the add-on extra, and that we can get rid of PE when there's conflict or constraints within this timetabling, or the PE teachers can do this by rolling out a curriculum like this, which is has intention, is rigorous, it has really strong assessment attached to it. We are bringing attention that curriculum is a teaching and learning construct. It's a learning construct. It's not just an add-on. It's not just sports coaching. We are now moving into a realm of really thorough, pedagogical, educational sort of best practice in terms of delivering PE. Okay, and it's a really good point that Nate says in terms of assessment. Every time you're teaching and instructing any form of lesson, you're assessing. You are assessing all of the time. Teaching is assessing. You're always looking and observing how kids are going and what they're doing. And what this assessment tracking does, it just gives you a bit of focus. It just sort of draws your attention to being more specific and intentional about what we are assessing. Because it can be really daunting sometimes of how much stuff we've got to assess, okay? And how deep we go into assessment. And yeah, don't try not to be sort of spooked about the amount of content and what's expected of you, because for this to be successful, it's our job to set you up for success and for you to, to be able to use the tools that we're developing and providing to provide quality teaching and learning for the students. Okay, that's really important. That no question is a ridiculous question, and there's a lot of support out here for you to be able to tap into to roll this out. So when we come back after lunch, which I believe is at 1:15, is you will log on or call into those specific Zoom links, which are in that initial document. So Brian, Chris, Aileen, and Nate will have an individual Zoom session set up, and they will then use that session and they will spend that time going through that. And then we will then come back to this link. I'll end the show. Then we'll come back to this link this afternoon, the same link. You can go out of it and just rejoin it again. And we will then have the afternoon session after your breakout session is Carla will then at 2:30 will be presenting and sharing some of her successes last year and how she approached teaching distant learning via Zoom using BodyStack 52. So a big call out to Carla there. She did some really cool stuff last year. So she's going to share some things that worked for her. And then Brian and Nate and Chris and Aileen are again going to share with you some best practice experiences of delivering PE over Zoom as well to finish off the session. So look, thanks very much for your attention this morning. I know it's a big ask to do all of the PD through Zoom, but hopefully we're getting to a point where we're working towards you going to be comfortable in starting your sessions in a couple of weeks' time. So I'll let you guys go, have a lunch, and I will see you back as a group at 2:30. So we're going to, for this link here, we'll log back in here at 2:30 on this group. Okay, see you everybody. Enjoy your lunch.
15 for the breakout group.
Yeah, the breakout groups will start at 2:15.
Chris and Eileen. Chris and Eileen, congratulations on George Kittle.
It's official.
Yeah, 6 years, baby.
Got that done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that boy's
Ryan, we're going to Chili's. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, for
We'll have a
sure.
drink too.
Oh, we're going to Chili's.
Going to
Hey.
Chili's for lunch, guys. See you guys there. Bye. I'll see you guys in a bit.
Hey, Brian, just can you stay on for a minute, Brian? I just want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Are you there, Brian?
Yeah, so here.
I'm still here too. Duncan, I had a question. Can I go to
Yeah.
one session of Chris's and one session of Nate's so I don't miss like all middle school or all elementary stuff?
Yeah,
When
just
we go to
if you
small
want,
groups?
just do half with one,
Because
half
there's
the
two
other.
different blocks, right?
And ask Chris,
Okay.
ask them
All right, thank
to record it as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so Chris and Brian, you might want to record your session so if people miss it as well, they can go to it.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Brian, Chris, what's the best way? I'm going to be ending this meeting now, but people are going to come back to this meeting at 2:30. Should I just keep this meeting live or people are going to have to ring back in to join the meeting again on the Zoom link?
You could, you're asking.
Yeah, what's the best way to go to get people back into this call again at 2:30 for me?
Oh, on your side, go ahead and end it and put it up, I don't know, a minute before we start.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Cause I would put it back up 45 minutes from now, just to be kind of like a help desk if people don't have our links, you know.
So the same link,
I'll
the
show up
same
a
link,
little early.
the same link will still be live,
Same
won't
link.
it? Yeah. Okay, guys.
That's right. Did you place the time limit for all day or for a couple hours from now? It's not different.
It was only for a. Oh no, where do I get to that one? In terms of this,
I'm not sure how you do it when you're already in the meeting. Let's see. If when you do close this link, you can go back to where you created the meeting and you can extend the hour.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that. So it'll be exactly the same link.
All right, Nori, did you have a question, Nori? Sorry, you're on mute.
I'm not really sure where I'm supposed to go or what link. Is it, how many groups are there? There's just 2 of them, or?
You're gonna come join me. You're gonna come join me for our breakout group.
So is there a link? Did you send a link?
Yeah, there is a link in an email. I'll forward it so you have better access to that.
Oh, okay. I don't think I got the email. I don't know.
All right.
It's all right.
I'll make sure to forward you that message.
Thank you.
Nori. Thank you.
Hey.
Duncan, just making sure that you make us co-hosts in the second half, because we're going to be bouncing off of each other a lot and using some audio and things like that.
Yeah, sure thing. So you do that in the settings, yeah. Yep. I'll go in and fix up my settings for that.
Michael,
yeah, just one quick question. So can I get the forwarded link to join your group as well?
I'll send it right after we get off of this call.
All right, thank you.
All right, y'all. Have a good lunch.
Have a nice lunch, guys.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, guys.
Leaving.